Yo, what's going on, Sixer Nation? DFJ Hoops here, back again with another live stream. Uh, I don't usually do live streams around this time, but hey, this is the time I got to work with, so I'm not even gonna waste any time. This is not gonna be a long one; it's gonna be a short one. So if y'all come in, just make sure you subscribe to the channel, smash that like button. Salute to my guy BJ in the building, bro. Don't y'all got a game? Yeah, the Sixers take on the Boston Celtics. I think in 2 hours. Two hours and 15 minutes. Let's be real. So yeah, but I'm gonna do this real quick and get it out the way. So appreciate you for being in here. I seen that game against the against the Miami Heat, man. That was nasty. But salute to you, bro. Salute to you. Appreciate you. But let me not waste any more time. Let me just get right into this. So the topic for today, 10 games into the season, we have to do an evaluation on the Philadelphia 76ers for the 25-26 season. What have we learned so far from this team? What is this team trying to show or prove to us? And how can we see this team moving on in the very near future? So I think the Sixer team, first of all, the Sixers are 6-4 in the Eastern Conference. They sit at the seventh seed, eighth seed, right in that range. And I think, to me personally, I think it's a huge improvement from the season prior. Because last season the Sixers started off, 2-8 in the Eastern Conference, right? They battled with injuries, they battled through a lot of things, but I think one of the reasons why they had a better start than last season is because at least you had Joel Embiid on the floor. I think last season it was just Maxey by himself, right? Especially to start off the season. It was just Maxey by himself trying to figure things out. A one-time All-Star. He was the reigning most improved player at that point, right? Trying to figure out how to win games for the Sixers, how to lead the Sixers to victory, and he did the best he could. But ultimately, he came up short almost every single time because he just didn't have enough with him, right? In order to win games, you need all-star talent, all NBA caliber talent to win games, especially in the NBA, right, at the highest level. And Maxi did not have that. Now this season, I think one of the things that's made it a little bit different is that Embiid has played in at least 5 or 6 games, right? Last season he started off in the 10th game of the season, which was against the Knicks, and he was ramping up at that point, right? Now this season, yeah, he's been playing. Yeah, he's been on minutes restrictions, but I think, having him out there alone, like it gives Maxi a lot of options to go to, and it opens Maxi's game as well because, teams have to focus on Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Now, Maxi, I think from a player standpoint, I think he's improved as a player. I think he's been more relentless this season. He's not really, showing any signs of weaknesses when it comes to his game. I think, in the fourth quarter, sometimes, he doesn't, he tries to take everything upon himself and make things happen and not really utilizing things around him in the clutch, right? We see him do it in the first 3 quarters, but not so much in the clutch. But as an overall player, I think he's gotten better. He's taken a huge responsibility and a huge role this season in year 6. Sixer fans are expecting him to do so much with this team. I mean, people are looking at him as the face of the team. To me, or me personally, I think he's the interim face of the Sixers right now. I still think it's Embiid's team. Now he's dealing with injuries. Having two knee surgeries in like 2 years. And as of right now, Embiid is still dealing with a knee injury, right? He's had a right knee soreness or whatever, so he's not gonna play in tonight's game, which is very, very disappointing because I felt like the Sixers, even though they lost the last game, I felt like they had something very, very good that they could build on, right, heading into the next few games. But hopefully the Sixers can pick up the victory tonight. But the point that I'm making is that Maxi having Embiid out there really helps him a lot. And also, the role players have also stepped up in a very, very huge way. First of all, salute to Kelly Oubre. Now, Kelly, last season didn't really have a good season, especially later on down the line because, I mean, the team was losing, right? The team was losing, and he also dealt with injury. So you didn't really get to see the best out of Kelly Oubre. Sixer fans criticized him. And he took exception to it, right? But he took exception to it, and guess what? He got much better this season. I think he's shooting like or 52% from the field. He's making smart plays this year. I mean, sometimes he'll show you one bone ass play. I mean, boneheaded play. But the good plays, I think the good has overshadowed the bad, and that's why when I talk about Kelly Oubre, I'm not really pointing out the boneheaded plays or the missed rotations or places where he should have been in the right position or he wasn't in the right position, right? I focus on the good because he's been doing a lot of good, right? And also the production has also been very, very impactful. Being in the starting lineup, I think he's putting up like what 15 or 16 or maybe even more. Let me take a look at it right here. Oh, he's giving you 19 points per game if I round up. 18.6, that's 19, right? And he's shooting 51% from the field, 38% from the three. Now, that is a little, it's only 10 games in, right? But 38% from Kelly Oubre, that's very, very huge for any team that he plays for because Kelly is a mid 30s, 3-point shooter, right? He's not really a good 3-point shooter. He's not really consistent from that side of the floor. And, sometimes he really hurts you from that side of the floor as a team. But this season it's been a lot different because, I think for number one, Maxey evolving or elevating his game, I mean his playmaking game to another level has given him, so much opportunities. And also Kelly Oubre has been given the green light to, sometimes, try to create some offense and try to punish mismatches as well. So the bulk of his production, is coming from, him being, taking advantages of mismatches in the post and also the self creation from Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. I think Edgecombe has a huge part to doing it because Edgecombe also has a role when it comes to playmaking and handling the ball. Also, you got to give Quentin Grimes credit for that too because Quentin Grimes has been making some plays for Kelly Oubre. Smash that like button as y'all come in. Smash that like button. Salute to Tin Head. Appreciate you. Bottom line, Embiid will never play back-to-back games again. Sixers need a new starting center. Yeah, you definitely have a point right there. He even said it last season or prior to the start of last season that he doesn't think he's going to play in back-to-back games. And I agree with you. I think as of right now, Embiid, we're seeing this is the beginning of the end for Joel Embiid, right? This is the beginning of the end. Dealing with another knee injury. I mean, it's knee soreness, so we cannot conclude that it's knee injury. But I think at this moment right here, you definitely need players that can play consistently for you, right? And him not being able to play in back-to-back games, that's definitely gonna hurt the Sixers as the season progresses, right? Because this is a new team, and with new team, you need to build chemistry. And in order to build chemistry, players have to play games, right? They have to practice, right? And they have to play in games. So if he's not playing in games, if he's not playing in as many games as he possibly can, the chemistry is not going to be there fully. So yeah, I agree with you. The Sixers, but the thing is that he's on a huge contract. His contract doesn't expire until 2029. So meaning he has at least three more years on his contract, right? 3 more years on his contract. So we don't know how the Sixers are going to do it. And if the Sixers do decide to, go for the medical retirement or just waive him, it's going to be at a loss because that contract is very, very gigantic. So I don't think the Sixers want to take that. They want to take that loss. He would rather, him, not playing back-to-back games. You'd rather him, sit out in as many games as he can in order to get the best out of him when he gets on the court. So I think it's very, very smart. And cutting him is just not going to fix it. But yeah, I do agree with you that at this point you need somebody who can be there consistently. So yeah, salute to you, bro. Appreciate you. Hopefully you subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you. Appreciate the comment. Since 2019, this is from Bernard McCoy. Shout out to you, bro. Since 2019, Sixers are 54 and 62, a 47 win percentage without Joel Embiid. We need a young center that can get 12 to 15 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 blocks to be able to win a lot of games without Joel Embiid. Yeah, we need a very, very productive center that can, give it to you on both sides of the floor, or maybe even if he's not even involved in the offense as much, but a double producing big man. Like I think that can definitely help Maxi in a very, very in a huge way. Even when it comes to setting screens, grabbing rebounds, and giving out outlet passes and stuff like that. Maxi and VJ Edgecombe could definitely utilize that. So yeah, but I think as of right now, I don't think the Sixers will be looking into it. So I think we just have to work with what we got, right? We just have to work with what we got. So yeah, that's yeah. But I mean, y'all making some solid points. I agree with y'all, but we can't really, we there's not too much we can do about it. Moving forward, I think this team's identity right now, I think that the identity has not been established yet because the season is still young. But I think they're still, working on being, a much better team than they was from last season. Now, last year, shit was sweet. Teams was coming in, beating the Sixers and just, patting their win record, right? Just adding to their win record. But I think this year, the Sixers have made it a point where even if they're gonna lose, like teams are gonna have to fight to get that victory. They're gonna have to fight for that dub. And we've seen it in the games that they've lost. We saw it in the Boston Celtics game. That game came down to the wire, right? It was a very, very close game, and they lost on the last shot, right? Against the Chicago Bulls, same scenario. Against the Cleveland Cavaliers, now that was a different, that was a different kind of game because you were on a back to back. You're missing a bunch of people. Jeremy Kane was not out there to play because back to back issues. He's dealing with two injuries as of right now, or recovering from two injuries right now. Joel Embiid, right? I mean, left knee soreness, cannot play in back to backs like we just established. And then you got other players who have not also stepped on the court, right? Paul George hasn't played in the game yet, right? Paul George hasn't played in the game yet, and you got Dominic Barlow who played in two or maybe three games and got injured, right? Out the starting lineup. So the Sixers were missing. They're missing a lot, but nonetheless, the Sixers have been fighting. They've been proving the NBA wrong that they deserve to be respected, and and people shouldn't look at last season to dictate the caliber of team that they are this year, right? Now, there's been a few surprises. Like I just said, Kelly Oubre has been a huge surprise for me, personally, because of the production and how smart he's been playing. Sometimes, even though the dumb plays still exist, right? We just hope he can eliminate that, but we'll see. And then another surprise was VJ Edgecombe, right? Now, VJ in the last few games didn't really give you a lot offensively, and I don't know why people do this, but people look at your offense to dictate the caliber of player you are. But me personally, I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at the points. Obviously, I'm also looking at your impact defensively. Right, I'm looking at what you're doing, your activity level, your attention to detail, and how you're able to impact the game as you're on the court. Now, people are looking at the points, and because his points has not been what they were the first few games, people have been not been too confident in him. Right now, me personally, I think he's been playing good, right, because of his responsibility on the defensive side of the floor. Like if you have to guard some of these, tough guards, in the Eastern Conference, it's not no easy assignment, right? That's a difficult task when you're tasked to guard, some of the best, Josh Giddey and Cade Cunningham and some of these other guys. Like it's very, very difficult, and to a point where he was guarding wings as well, guys that were bigger than him. Right? He's guarding guys that are bigger than him and also making an impact offensively as well. That's very, very difficult. Having to deal with the RJ Barretts, having to deal with the Brandon Ingrams, having to deal with some of these guys is very, very difficult. And as a rookie who's not really VJ is not guaranteed 20 shots a night. He's not guaranteed 25 shots a night. Right? That's Maxey. Maxey's guaranteed that. And Maxey does not have that responsibility defensively. Now Maxi might, he gets a few blocks on some of these guys, but he's not tasked to slow any of them down, right? Now he might pick them up, a few possessions here or there, maybe on the screen action where teams are searching for the mismatch because Maxi's a mismatch. 9 times out of 10 on the floor. That's not his responsibility, right? That's VJ Edgecombe's responsibility. That's Kelly Oubre's responsibility, and also guys coming off the bench as well. So, me personally, I think he's been playing well. He's been playing well, even though the points have been low, but the defense has been there. And some games he's also giving you some rebounding, and also he's also making plays as well. I mean, he's only a rookie, and I believe he's only going to get better from here. But um, I don't think the Sixers. I don't think they go 6-4 in the first 10 games without VJ Edgecombe. I think VJ has played a significant role in the Sixers being 6-4, and because of him and the amount of minutes he's playing, that's why the Sixers are in this position. And he really complements Maxey very, very well. Right, helps Maxey a lot, and Maxey's one of the biggest reasons why they've been, they went 6-4, but VJ has definitely played a role in it. VJ's played a role. Everybody else has played a role in it as well. Now let me pivot and talk about Nick Nurse for a few minutes here. Now, Nick Nurse, came out in huge criticism last season. I think I was one of few who did not want Nick Nurse fired. Now, every loss, one thing I noticed is that every loss, it's Nick Nurse's fault. When we did the Chicago Bulls game breakdown, where offensively we saw Maxey make constant mistakes after constant mistakes, and nobody called him out on those, blown up plays. The Sixers having multiple empty possessions after empty possessions. Like, nobody called him out. And instead, they blamed Nick Nurse for it. Now, as much as we give Maxey credit, we should also criticize him when he makes some not smart plays, right? Shooting the ball with 20 seconds left on the shot clock in the clutch when your team is down by 2 points, we got to call it out. And I called that out, right? Trying to finish over 2 or 3 guys when Trendon Watford is wide open in the weak side corner. I mean, in the strong side corner, and you're not making those reads, you got to get criticized for it, right? We got to call you out for it. So, these are plays. And Nick Nurse have been drawing, the end of game, when the Sixers are down and they draw up a play in the clutch and they have to execute. I think some of these actions have been very, very good actions, especially against the Chicago Bulls, right? It was a great action for a player who was capable of knocking down shots like that and Quentin Grimes, right? That game, that was a good play. Embiid set a good screen, was able to get Buzelis off of Grimes. Now, Buzelis ended up, contesting very, very well, but I just believe that, he just missed a shot, right? It was still a great action, right? He just missed a shot. But, you would have, some Sixer fans, criticize Nick Nurse because Maxey is the best player. Maxey should get the shot. Okay, yeah. I mean, that's cool, but drawing it up for Grimes is not bad either, right? And then factoring in that Isaac Okoro was guarding Max the entire game, right? Maxey started up in the backcourt, right? And Isaac Okoro was right with him. And if the play was for Maxey, they would have tried to trap him, most definitely, because it was only a few seconds left in that game. But it was a great action, and he just missed a shot. Right, he just missed a shot. Now, me personally, I don't have anything bad to say about Nick Nurse. Regards, in regards to this team. I mean, I think my only concern is the amount of minutes that some of these guys are playing. Right, Maxey's playing a ton of minutes, like 41 or 42 minutes. Now, I don't have any problem with guys playing a lot of minutes, but me personally, I would suggest that their minutes increase, like midway through the season or maybe closer to end of the season, where you for a fact that the team is going to be in the playoffs, and you got to get them used to the playoff pressure and the playoff type of energy, and what comes with playoff basketball. And what comes with playoff basketball is that you might end up playing a lot of minutes, right? That's just the reality of it. Like in the playoffs, the game slows down. The rotation, shrinks. Some coaches play only 8 players, others play only 9. But knowing Nick Nurse, his playoff rotation is going to be super, super short. So where he's going to play only 8 guys. So, closer to the end of the season, that's where, you ramp these guys up and increase their minutes. But as of right now, I mean, Maxey playing 41 minutes. I mean, it's also, there's been benefits to it. Let's not get it wrong, because, the Sixers have been winning games, right? They've been winning games. Maxey, and the amount of minutes that he's playing has been very, very productive, and very, very efficient as well. Even though he's had a high volume of shots, right? An increased volume, the percentages are still perfect, right? 47% from the field, 44% from the 3-point line. That's very, very efficient, right? It's very, 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 very efficient, especially from a 6'2" guard, right? It's been very, 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 very efficient. Now, one thing that he's not doing from last season that people criticize him for but people are not giving him credit for it, is that he's not playing the older guys a lot of minutes. Right? He's not playing the older guys a lot of minutes. Because last season, I mean, Kyle Lowry was playing a lot of minutes in some stretches. Eric Gordon was playing a lot of minutes in some stretches, but this year not so. It's not been the case, right? I think the team is much younger than it was last season. I think last season they were top 2 or top 3 team. I mean, top 3 oldest teams in the league. But this year, it's been different. They retooled the roster. They brought in a lot of younger guys like the Dominic Barlows, the Jabari Walkers, right? Trendon Watford, and some of these other guys, right? So the team is not older. So, but I think that he's also he's given freedom and liberty to some of these other guys for them to display what they're capable of doing, and that's why this team has been what they are right now. Now, most of the games that they lost were winnable games, right? They were winnable games, and one thing that Sixer fans have been very, very concerned of is the third quarter collapses. Now, I think in most of the games, the Sixers have lost the third. They've lost the third quarter, and people complain about it. The offense being stagnant, the team's not producing in the third quarter, and what have you. But me personally, my only response to that is that most of those games that they're talking about, I mean, they're 6-4, right? They're 6-4, and we can just scratch off the Cavs game, right? That game was, I mean, even though it's a loss, but yeah, the Sixers they were supposed to lose that game, right? They were supposed to lose it because they were coming off a back to back, and number two, they didn't really have a lot of guys, right? But I think even with them not producing in the third frame, like most of these games that they lose, I mean, most of these games that they lost, it came down to the wire, right? It came down to the wire. They found a way to, even though they were down or sometimes they were up heading into the fourth quarter, even though they had a terrible third. Some of those games they headed into the fourth quarter with the lead, and then they somehow blew it. The Chicago Bulls game is one of them. I think the Boston Celtics game, they were up as well, right? Hell, even the Pistons game, they were up heading into the fourth, right? The game was close in the third. It was close in the clutch. They were only down by a point, right? Only down by a point. But what happened is the Sixer team is not or has not been they've not been executing very, very well in the fourth quarters. And I think that should be the concern and not the third frame, right? The third frame should be a concern, but not as much as the fourth, right? Because the fourth quarter in the clutch, that's where you win ball games, right? So you can't lose a game and then go back to the third quarter and say, oh, if we had done this, if we had done that. No, you lost, right? You lost. So yeah, I think there should be emphasis on that. Late game executions. The guys have to play smart. They have to play it better, and make better decisions in the clutch in order to win games. And one of the few people that I'm looking at is this guy right here, right? This guy right here. If he's the best player on the team, then if the team loses, he should be getting the blame. He should be getting most of the blame. Because hell, the Sixers are 6-10. The Sixers, when they had their early success, he was getting all the credit, right? He was getting all the credit. Him and VJ. Now VJ's a rookie, so I'm not really gonna focus too much on him, right? Because I mean, who who holds a rookie that accountable that early into his career, right? But yeah, Maxey definitely should get blamed, especially in the fourth, where he's not making smart plays in the clutch with the game on the line, right? Now against the Pistons, some of the plays were not his fault, especially defensively, because when you got Andre Drummond on the court, sometimes you have to deploy. I mean, not even sometimes. At some point, you would have to deploy a drop coverage in your defensive strategies. And drop coverage is one of the worst defensive coverage in basketball in today's game, right? Because most of these guards are so good. Most of these guards have a nasty mid-range game. And guess what? They end up barbecuing you. So when you're in drop coverage, it's just one or two things. Either you back all the way up and give you back all the way up and give the guard an open mid-range shot, or you step up, and then all the guard has to do is just lob it to the big man, right? And that's how Jalen Duren was getting most of his production, right, off of those lobs, where Andre Drummond was just, trying to stop the dribble penetration, pause if necessary, and then next thing you know, the Sixers don't rotate fast enough, and then there's a lob, and then there's a jam. Right. So that Pistons game, they lost it on the defensive side of the floor, in my opinion, because Detroit just had too many weapons. When you got Cade on the floor, and Cade also had a nasty game last night against the Washington Wizards. Shout out to him, bro. Shout out to him. I told people that he's a better player and that Maxey is having a better season. But yeah, Cade Cunningham is that dude. Like, he's that dude. So yeah, the Sixers lost that game on the defensive side of the floor, and there's not it was just not too much they could do about it, right? If they couldn't really try to keep up with him on those ball screens, if the defense around the ball screens wasn't elite, then it's not too much you could do. I think that game, I think me personally, I think going under screens probably would have helped them. But I mean, Cade had gotten hot, in the second, third, that I just think that it just didn't matter. Right. But I just wanted them to try it to see. I mean, hey, you're getting cooked anyway, so why not deploy a different strategy rather than trying to play drop coverage or trying to put two on the ball to where you end up playing 4-on-3 and then the whole team's defense is on scramble. I mean, in scramble mode, right? So yeah, that loss. I mean, yeah, that's cool, but it still came down to the wire. But the talking point after the game was the Sixers didn't score a lot of points in the third. But did that even matter? Because the game was close in the fourth, right? The game was close. Maxey hit a big three, right? They made some shots, but on the defensive side of the floor, you just couldn't stop them. So even if the Sixers would have won in the third quarter, guess what? Even if they would have put up 40, guess what? In the fourth, you were still going to get barbecued defensively because you cannot stop Cade Cunningham. Right, and that's not on Kelly Oubre, that's not on VJ Edgecombe, that's just the defensive coverage that was deployed was just not a winning formula, right? It was just not a winning formula. So, that loss and a few other losses against the Bulls, just still the game came down to the wire. Even though you lost the third, you still had the lead going up in the fourth. You had a 7-point lead, right? You had a 7-point lead against the Celtics. You had a lead. So my whole point is, with people focusing on, the third quarter production, the point production, I think the focus should be more on, late game execution rather than the third, right? I think they survive in the third, but, most of the games, it comes down to the wire, and either they're not executing smartly offensively or defensively, the the coverage that's deployed is just not, it's just not the right one. Right, it's just not the right one. Hell, even Maxey said it at the post game interview. He said we went away from the game strategy in terms of the defense. Right, he said we went away from the strategy. So I mean, that's him. Noticing where they went wrong in the game, and next time they just have to execute the game plan. So shout out to Maxey for taking accountability for it and then, moving forward. But I want to do a quick players evaluation right quick because, the first 10 games of the season, the players do play a part in it. The coaching has been good. Like I said, the coaching has been good. And the players, I think I covered Maxey. I've spoken to Maxey a few minutes into the show, and I like how he's playing. Right? I love the way he's playing. The production has been there, the impact has been there. Playing a lot of minutes. He's young. Why not throw him into the fire? Hell, he don't have a lot of miles on those legs, so playing him all those minutes, okay, cool. And he's trying to be this generation's Allen Iverson. And AI was playing a lot of minutes, 43, 44, 45 minutes. Right? So if you want to be that great, sometimes, you just have to do the necessary. And in this situation, playing the most amount of minutes is the necessary. So I think I think Maxey would just take it, he'll take it from here and do the best that he can to, get this team some victories. But I mean, he can't do it by himself. The others have to come with him as well. So shout out to Maxey. Hopefully he can keep this going at a very, very high level because he's getting a lot of respect from the rivals and some teams from the Western Conference as well. So shout out to him. Secondly, let me focus on Joel Embiid, right? Joel and the amount of games he's played in, I think he's averaging like what 19 or 20 points per game. Not your typical MVP caliber player. I mean, he's dealt with injuries, so we know why. And one of my disappointments from him is the amount of rebounds that he's getting. Right now, yeah, I understand the injuries and his inability to jump, but as a center and with this team and one of their biggest issues being with the rebounding, if he's in the game and he's not really giving you a lot of rebounds, that really hurts your team, right? It really hurts the team, and the team is not able to fully, gel defensively, right? Getting defensive rebounds is very, very vital when it comes to team defenses because you're limiting the team to just one possession. So that's a very, very big deal, right? It's a very, very big deal. But, other than that, I mean, offensively, him not playing on the block enough, right? Shooting a bunch of threes. Let me look up how many threes he's shooting because it seems like he jacks up like 3 or 4 every game, right? So, Joel Embiid attempting, 5 threes a game, right? And he's shooting 32%. Joel Embiid is not a 3-point shooter, right? Even though he's capable of knocking them down, but typically he's not really a mid-range. A 3-point shooter. He gets the bulk of his production, from the nail and in the box, around the basket area. So, when I see him at the 3-point line, I'm really, not too impressed. Even if he knocks down the three, because most of the time these teams they're giving them the shot because it's like you're bailing us out, right? Because you're a threat from the 3-point line, but you're a bigger threat when you get your big behind on the block, right? When you get your big behind on the nail, like that's when you're that big of a threat. But if he's at the 3-point line, not so much. And it really hurts the team offensively too, because sometimes with these missed shots, sometimes they're hard bricks, pause if necessary, but sometimes they're hard bricks, and the other team gets into the races and they're able to convert on the other side. I think that's something I saw a lot in the Chicago Bulls game when he played in it, right? When he played, jacking up all those threes, and guys were just getting easy fast break opportunities. And some of the other victories, I mean, against the Raptors were doing the same thing, deploying that same strategy. But one thing about the Raptors and the reason why they lost is because they were too small, right? They were too small. They were playing in back to back, so that's the reason why they lost. Salute to Rap Guy Reloaded. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. Salute DFJ. Edgecombe is a franchise player. Yeah, I think he does have that. He does have those qualities, but I think we need to see more from him. Right? We need to see more from him. You know. And speaking of Edgecombe, let me just go to him. Now, Embiid, in order to improve these, I mean, he has to get much healthier. He has to, get off minutes restriction. I mean, that's up to the coaching staff, but he has to get much healthier, get off minutes restrictions, and we can go from there. Right? We can go from there. And on the floor, not don't jack up a bunch of threes, get your big behind on the block. Yeah. And don't try to be a ball stopper as much. So yeah, I think that should be the improvements from him, right? Heading into these next few games, right? Now he's not gonna play against the Celtics. We get it, right? Right knee soreness. That's unfortunate, but whenever he does return, like we need to see something clean up. Rap Guy Reloaded says it's too late for Embiid. He just doesn't care about basketball. Um, I mean, I don't know about that because I mean, with the amount of injuries that he suffered throughout the course of his career, I mean, he's still playing. So At least he does care. But I mean, I do get it. Maybe he's just playing because of the money, which it does make sense, right? It does make sense. But I mean, sometimes at these post game interviews, he's showing frustration that he does want to play a lot of minutes. He does want to impact his team, in a positive way. So I don't know if I can agree with it. Now with the money, of course, I mean, shit. I mean, we all want the money, and I mean, he can retire right now and still get paid, right? I think he can retire right now and still get paid, get all his money. So yeah, I do think he does care. He does want to win. If he don't want to win, I don't think he's gonna play. So yeah, but I think two things can be true at a time. So yeah, there might be some truth into what you're saying. But let me get on VJ Edgecombe, right? VJ Edgecombe, the straight edge, rough around the edges, whatever you want to call it. A fabulous start to his NBA career, right? A lot of surprises. Him attacking closeouts, him making threes, him making plays, shooting the ball. In the beginning, he was shooting the 3-pointer very, very well, but in these last few games, his shots has just not been falling. Right, I think he's in a shooting slump right now. If I go through his games played, right, now, first of all, he's played in all 10 games, even though he's dealing with the thumb, with the thumb thing, right? He missed a preseason game. I know the preseason doesn't matter, but in the preseason, he was dealing with something with his thumb on his shooting hand. So I think he still wears that black sleeve around the thumb. Hey, man, I don't know if I should pause that, but, you know, the thumb has been bothering him. So the 3-pointers, not so. So he's 1 for 11 from the 3-point line in the last 3 games, right? Against the Cavs, he goes 0 for 5 against them. Against the Raptors, he goes 0 for 4 against them. And against Detroit, he was 1 and 2 against them. 1 for 2 against them. So 1 for 11 in the last 3 games. Not very, very. It's not good, right? It's not good compared to the first game of the season where he goes 5 for 13 from the 3-point line, right? 5 for 13 is that the percentage is way, way, way much higher than the last 3 games. So hopefully he can find a game. Maybe who knows? Maybe maybe it might be in this game against the Celtics where he gets right back on track and start to replicate or start to show us what he was giving us in the beginning of the season. So it's not the end of the world. I see people trying to backtrack with their statements and him winning rookie of the year and so. Now I don't know who's gonna win rookie of the year. I think he's definitely gonna be in the run-ins. I think he's definitely gonna make first team. He's definitely gonna be on the first rookie team, the first all rookie team, right? Now whether he's gonna win rookie of the year or not, I just don't know. Right, I just don't know, but I think he's on the right track. Right, I think he's on the right track, impacting the Sixers in a very, very positive way. Um, and sometimes rookies are not just sometimes when rookies get drafted, they're just not ready to play all these minutes and expected to be given a role as such, right? But he's not complaining about the minutes he's playing, right? He's not complaining. He's not complaining about not getting a lot of shots in games. Like he's very, very comfortable with the role that he's playing. Certain nights he might get a lot of shots. Other nights he might not get a lot of shots. So, but these last few games have really limited his percentages, right? And the production is still there, right? 16.3 points per game, leading all rookies in points, rebounds, and assists. But I just want him to get back to shooting a very, very high percentage. I know the defense is going to be there. I know the hustle is going to be there. I know the effort is going to be there. I'm not questioning that, right? So I think everybody can improve, and even as a rookie, I think there's a lot that he has to improve on. If Embiid and Maxey have things that they have to improve on, VJ definitely got a lot of shit that he got to improve. And the first thing is the shooting, right? The shooting is definitely a huge area for concern. He's having a great rookie season since Allen Iverson. Yeah, 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 absolutely. Overall, yes, but the last 3 games, it just hasn't. He's not had it, right. 1 for 11 from the 3-point line. That's atrocious, right? That's atrocious. So hopefully he can, the Boston Celtics gave him his first big break. So, hopefully against them tonight, he, replicates something similar to that first game, right? And I just realized we have played the Boston Celtics, 3 times. I mean, tonight will be the third, right? Which is very, very surprising because usually they stretch it out. Paul. Oh my god. Usually, you play them in 1 month and then you play them in the next 2 or maybe 3 months, and it's just like it's spread out. I apologize, y'all. I apologize. I gotta focus. But this year is it's a lot different. You play them 3 times. You know, but I think it's also good, right? It's also good because you get the games out the way and not have to worry about Boston. But yeah, I think it's a good thing. Yeah, against the Celtics, he's had some good performances against them. The first one, 13 for 26, 50%. The second time, 7 for 11 from the field, right? And he's also playing some good defense too to go along with it, right? To go along with it. Salute to Mike Sports Vibes in the building. Appreciate you, yo, boy. Good evening, bro. Appreciate you for being in here, bro. And y'all should definitely go check out Mike Sports Vibes, right? Y'all should go check him out. Everything Philly but football. He's a Vikings fan. Yeah, he's really down with the Vikings, so y'all should definitely go check him out. Right, one of the best basketball minds in these YouTube streets when it comes to the Sixers. So definitely, most definitely. Rap Guy Reloaded says Quentin Grimes looking like an all-star. If he keeps this up, he'll be all NBA. I don't know if you can be all NBA coming off the bench. I mean, has there ever been a player, all NBA coming off the bench? I mean, even though yeah, he's playing very, very well. Like, don't get me wrong, coming off the bench, like he's had a lot of opportunities as well as playing in the clutch too, right? So he's kind of like the Manu Ginobili type, where they're coming off the bench, but they're getting a lot of minutes and they're heavily involved within the offense, right? Within the offensive structure, like they're heavily involved. So that's him. And speaking of Quentin Grimes, why not? Fuck it, Quentin Grimes. Prior to the season starting, I thought he was going to be a starter, but Nick Nurse had different plans, and one of those plans was to bring him off the bench. Now Quentin Grimes has had some good moments. A game winner against the Charlotte Hornets? Was it the Washington Wizards? One of them. And also his overall production has just been there. Coming off the bench and giving you the production he's giving you. I think he's definitely top 3, or maybe let me say top 5 in 6 men of the year runnings. I think he's definitely top 5, right? Because his overall offensive production is just there. The skill set is there, and like I said, Kelly Oubre is getting the bulk of his production from Maxey, Edgecombe, and Quentin Grimes coming off the bench, right? They're helping to facilitate to Kelly Oubre for him to get his shit off, right? Now Quentin Grimes in these 17 minutes, and like I said, he kind of has the Manu Ginobili role, the Lou Williams role, right? Even though they come off the bench, but they're playing like 30 plus minutes. Quentin Grimes is playing 31 minutes. Shooting 47% from the field, 60%. I mean, not 60, 40% from the three, and 81% from the free throw line. And he's giving you 17 points coming off the bench. Now, granted, it's early. Jared McCain is injured, so when all those guys get back, maybe the minutes might plummet a little bit. The production numbers might plummet as well. But I mean, 17 points a game, that's good production, right? That's good production, and any team will definitely give him a solid contract in next season's offseason. Or hell, it might even be the Sixers. Who knows, right? But Quentin Grimes, has been good offensively, defensively. He does give effort. He does the best that he can, right? And hey, Mike, yeah, I did pause on that. I ain't gonna lie, I did pause on that. It was just, yeah, I don't know what's going on tonight, but yeah. Nick Nurse needs to call plays for VJ Edgecombe specifically. That's I agree with that too. I agree with it. But I think VJ is kind of like he's kind of a player where with the responsibility he has defensively, like he's able to get his points. Even if you're not running, even if you're not running plays for him, like he gets offensive rebounds. He can get productions that way. He's very very quick in transition, right? Those are easy opportunities where he can capitalize off of. And then also he's able to get to the free throw line because when he gets the ball and he's driving to the cup, he's teams try to be physical with him, and sometimes he's able to draw fouls. Other times he's not able to draw fouls. But I think drawing fouls is a skill, and that's something that these guys got to develop. Right now, being a rookie, yeah, you're not gonna get those superstar type calls. Right, you're just not gonna get it. You might get it a few times, but it's not gonna be consistent. Right, Maxey's having what it's taking 8 free throws a game compared to you taking 3. I mean, 3 ain't shit, right? But I think he's able to generate points. That way. And then also, sometimes they run plays. Sometimes off of broken plays. He's able to when he gets the mismatch, he's able to force his way downhill and able to convert, right? But also, the threes, that's why I said that hopefully this game might get him in rhythm because, not shooting so good from the three, that does, it does mess with your psyche, right? Because Mike, I don't know if you remember this game, and it was against the Bulls in the third quarter. There was a play where he gave the ball to Embiid. I mean, Embiid had the ball and he gave it to VJ Edgecombe on the slot on the wing because VJ had the mismatch because Vucevic was on him, right? So I think Embiid gave him the ball because I mean you're faster than them. You can get to you're faster, you're quicker than them. You can get to the basket before he can even catch up to you. But I think because his confidence wasn't all the way up, and because he had missed a lot of shots, like he wasn't really confident into taking that drive because that would have been a straight line drive to the basket. Now, yeah, they would have definitely collapsed the contest at the rim, but him not being confident because he's not confident, he's been giving up a lot of easy opportunities as well. Like opportunities where you can go get a bucket easily. I mean, it's not going to be easy, but situations where you can go get a bucket, like he's just giving up the ball. And I think because the confidence is not up because of these last 3 games, because the shooting numbers have been terrible, right? Because when the 3 pointers are falling, bro, when the 3 pointers are falling, like the basket gets bigger, and you get so confident, and you're able to drive to the basket. Now I don't know if you saw that play because Embiid gave it to him, he gave it back. Embiid gave it back to him, he gave it back, and then he gave it to him for a third time, and then he gave it back, and I was like, yeah, his confidence is just I don't think he's so confident because that was a mismatch where you got to take advantage of, but he was just giving it up, playing hot potato with it. So um he says late to the live stream. Did you talk about Embiid's sore knees? Yeah, I did talk about it briefly. I mean, it's definitely it's sad. It's sad, but I think we shouldn't jump to conclusions as of right now. Let's just wait until even though the Sixers, they be keeping information from the fans. I think we should not jump to conclusions as of right now. Let's just wait and see how the diagnosis goes, and then we can go from there. But I mean, knowing the Sixers, they might hide information from the fans. But I think the good news is it's not on the knee that was surgically repaired. So that's a good thing. And another good thing is it was a sore knee, right? So nothing to do with any ligaments, nothing to do with anything. No meniscus, no nothing. So no cartilage. So I think that's good news, right? The bad news is he's gonna miss tonight's game, and I don't know if the Sixers can win without him tonight. I mean, I don't know. Even though Andre Drummond has been playing very, very well, but Drummond he's a backup center, right? Drummond is a backup center, and Adem Bona is not a starting caliber center. So I don't know. And Adem Bona has been listed as 6'10". I don't think he's 6'10". I think he's 6'8". Right? I think he's 6'8". Shit, Paul Reed is taller than him. And Paul Reed was what, 6'9". So I don't know, but yeah, it's unfortunate. But I think the Sixers have to lock in and try to win this game tonight, and not just focus on Embiid being injured. So yeah, that's my take on it. But yeah, Grimes, you know, very very productive off the bench, very very solid, very very fearless too, right? Relentless, goes at defenses without any care in the world, right? That's something that you want to see from your guys coming off the bench. Yeah. Most definitely. So, yeah, that's what Grimes. I think, one thing about Grimes that I love is that, he's able to make an impact, like he's a microwave scorer. So, him coming off the bench, like he can generate offense like that quickly. Like he might struggle in the first, but in the second quarter, he might just turn it on and, next thing you know, 10 straight points, 11 straight points. Right. That's something that happened in the Toronto Raptors game. Right. In the Toronto Raptors game. In the first quarter, not so much production in there, but in the second, that's where he started to turn it up. Um, Hitting, multiple threes, having some drives, and then, getting to the line as well. So, yeah, Quentin Grimes should keep doing what he's doing. Defensively, sometimes, he's too little, so he can't really fight with some of these guys. And then also, I mean, if your defensive coverage is not, if you're playing drop coverage, guess what? Your perimeter defenders are going to be useless. I mean, excuse me to say that, but if you're playing drop, sometimes the perimeter defense is just useless. Because when the screen comes, you will get caught in that screen. And with some of these guys, if they get into the mid range and they start cooking from the mid range, that's it. And sometimes he has to deal with it because you're playing with some of these guys who have to rely, some of these centers, these big men who have to rely on some form of drop coverage. So it really hurts the team and it hurts your defense, and it makes you, as a perimeter defender, it makes you seem like you're not a good defender because these guys are still scoring, but people don't realize that it's drop coverage. Right? So, sometimes, around the screens, you got to play it smart. You got to angle yourself in a way in which you're able to, slip those screens and still keep up with the ball handler. Otherwise, you're going to get cooked every single time. So, and communication is also another thing, right? Communication, the Sixer team are not communicating at all, right? I watched the last game against the Pistons, and there were there were a lot of situations where if they were communicating effectively, like they probably were gonna get some stops, right? Now I wanted to break that fourth quarter down, but I just didn't want to get flagged again because I got flagged for the first one that I did. So I don't want that anymore. But moving on, we might cover a few games. So we beating the Celtics tonight. Yeah, I think so. I think so. Now I guaranteed a victory against the Pistons, but I was wrong. But yeah, I think we can beat. I think we can beat the Celtics. Right. I think we can beat the Celtics. We had 1 day of rest, so that's definitely going to help us. Number two, it's a home game, correct? So that should definitely help us. Yeah. Even though we lost to the Pistons at home, but yeah, we're definitely beating the Celtics tonight. Right? We're beating the Celtics. I believe this will be the game where Edgecombe will break out of his shooting slump, and then it will help the Sixers get the victory tonight. So yes. The next person, I think Kelly Oubre. I talked about Kelly, being very, very highly productive, playing defense. Also helping on the weak side, with those blocks that he's been getting us. Right. Not really averaging a lot of blocks. One block a game. That's pretty. It's pretty solid. Right. It's pretty solid. And offensively, he's still, he's shooting the ball at a very, very high clip, giving you defense, all around play, right? All around play, with the exception of, assists, because he's not really a playmaker. But, I like what he's doing, right? I like what he's doing, and I don't have any criticisms for him. So, yeah, nothing bad to say about Kelly. I think, you can compare him to the heart and soul of the team, right? He's kind of like the Draymond of the Sixer team, right? He's kind of like the Draymond. When I say the Draymond, I don't mean like a facilitator or playmaker that Draymond is, but the heart and soul, like somebody who keeps this team alive, like the Josh Hart of you know, the Knicks, right? I think Kelly has been very, very solid for us to start the season off. Because for number one, he's trying to prove some Sixer fans wrong, and number two, he's playing for a contract, right? We can never forget about that. Right. So it helps the Sixers because you've won these games because these guys have been stepping up to go with Maxey's production. Right. So it really helps the Sixers. So shout out to him. Nothing really to say. Adem Bona, not really, a second round pick. Like what is this ceiling? Right. I don't think he's gonna be, any great player, but what I expect from him is like solid, solid all around play. And, defensively, he can get you a few blocks. But, sometimes, he gets lost defensively as well because, the rotation sometimes doesn't really make sense to him. And offensively, I think he misses a lot of opportunities. Like he gets offensive rebounds, and sometimes he's not really able to like corral it and like secure the offensive rebounds to help the Sixers get a second chance opportunity. And he misses opportunities like that because if you can secure the ball and go back up, those are points. If you get fouled, you get to the free throw line and you get easy points. So my criticism, I think he should catch the ball better, be in better be in better spots, right? Be in the best situations as possible, best positions as possible, to receive the ball. When you set screens, you got to roll effectively, right? Roll because it's easy to set a screen, but how to roll sometimes big men have issues with it, right? Not rolling effectively could mess up the offense, right? It can mess up the offense because you gotta make whoever's tagging you's job very, very difficult. You have to make them make a decision whether they're going to leave you wide open and then you receive the pass and get to the basket, or whether they're going to tag and then the ball handler can hit the shooter in the corner. So you got to make it difficult on the weak side defender too. Now that's something that most of these guys may not pay attention to, but those are all effective, right? If you can make those roles effective, guess what? It could open Maxey's game even much more than we realize. Right. And then, other guys, Paul George hasn't played, hope he can get back on the court mid-November. I mean, who knows, right? Good thing is that he's been practicing, right? Dominic Barlow also dealing with injury. Jared McCain on minutes restrictions. And he's looked very, very terrible in these games, right? Not really giving you much when he steps on the court. I mean, it's been terrible, right? It's been so terrible. But I think with these games, with these performances, I think we should take it with a grain of salt because he's not in rhythm at all, right? He's not in rhythm. So once he gets back into shape or gets back in rhythm, I think it's going to be a whole different thing, right? It's going to be a whole different thing altogether. So yeah, but I don't see people criticizing him as much because people understand that he's coming off two injuries, and he hasn't played in a very, very long time. But hopefully he can get it going sooner than expected. And other players, Justin Edwards, one of the biggest disappointments for me personally, because I had very, very high expectations of him. Now, I'm not saying that I expected him to, come in the season and average like double figures, but I expected him to be a much serviceable player to where when you come in the game, you can just hold it down and, make the shots when you get the opportunity to do so, play good defense. But the shots have not been falling, and it's made him not be so effective when he gets on the floor. Now, shout out to him. He was able to make a three off that Embiid pass, over the head pass, which was cool, and he was able to make the shot. Shout out to him. But I think this is a game where he can also come in and do damage, right? I think last season he had some games where against the Celtics he had some good moments against them. So hopefully that could translate into the game tonight, and then we can see some good plays from him too. So yeah, but the rest of the guys, Andre Drummond has been playing good. Andre Drummond has been playing good against his former team, the Detroit Pistons. He had a double-double, right? He made 2 threes in the first half. Now in the fourth quarter, that was a play where Maxey made a good read where he hit Andre Drummond in the corner, and Drummond shot the three. Now, obviously, he had made 2 threes in the game prior to that moment. But me personally, like with the game on the line, I don't want you shooting that three. I don't want you in that corner in the first place. Right? I don't want you in the corner. Now, him being in the corner, yes, it stretches out. Hey, man. Him being in the corner, yeah, spaces out the floor because, after hitting 2 threes, like Jalen Duren has to, be close to him because he's capable of knocking it down. But in that moment right there, I would rather somebody else in that corner, right? Especially closer to the strong side because Maxey's got the rock, and Maxey, if he drives, teams the defense is going to collapse. I want somebody else in that corner and not Andre Drummond. So it it was great that you hit those two threes, but the third one, that was a bad drawing. Like next time, don't try to shoot that. Don't try to shoot that. But other than that, I mean, I think he still played good. For as a backup center who was inserted into the starting lineup, I think he played very very good. Right, and he's been impacting the Sixers on a very very high level. Right, he's giving the Sixers a ton of rebounds when he comes in. So that really helps the Sixers. Right, it really helps us because we're not a very good rebounding team. But I think once everybody gets healthy, once we're able to get all the guys, like I think the Sixers will be a much better rebounding team. So, yeah, I think that's everything. Covered everything that I wanted to cover. Um, you know, Things that the team can improve on. Guys have to get healthy. Once guys get healthy, I think most of the problems or issues that I have will kind of decrease. Like most of the minutes that some of these guys are playing. Like if we get everybody healthy, everybody's minutes is going to go down, right? Minutes are going to go down. Production is going to go way up, right? And yeah, we'll be a much better team than what we are right now. Even though we're better than what we was last season, but I think once we get everybody healthy, like it's gonna be a completely different team, right? We're gonna be a completely different team. So yeah, that's all I got. Appreciate y'all for being in here with me. Yeah, it's only an hour until the game starts against the Celtics. So yeah, appreciate y'all. Salute to my guy Mike Sports Vibes. Like I said, y'all should definitely go check him out. Salute to Rap Guy Reloaded, my guy BJ, and the two new guys that I saw in here. Salute to Bernard McCoy, and then salute to 10 at 41. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Appreciate y'all. This was a fun one. I'll catch you guys on the next one, which will be tomorrow because we will recap the game tonight, which is the game against the Celtics. We're gonna definitely talk about it tomorrow morning. So, salute to my guy Casual. Appreciate you. Yeah, Casual. I gotta get on I gotta get on one of your lives, but yeah, because sometimes it seems like you go live like randomly, like with random games. So I gotta yeah I gotta get on the playback too. So yeah, but appreciate you though. Appreciate you. Yeah, salute to everybody that tuned in. Sixers, 7th seed. Hopefully they can get the victory tonight against the Celtics. That would be very, very huge for us. Even though people are not going to give the Sixers credit because the Celtics are not they don't have a winning record. But hey, a victory is a victory. I think these little victories can help get you a huge one. Yeah, most definitely. No, yeah, I got you. Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna end this. I'm gonna end this right quick and then I'm gonna hit you. Yeah. I'm gonna end this joint and I'm gonna hit you. So I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I'm gonna catch you guys on the next one. Peace.